How was Elisha saved from the Syrian raiders? This is the question we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of 2 Kings on walking through the Bible. Today we're going to be discussing 2 Kings chapter 6, verses 8 to 23, but before we do that, let's read the passage. If you have a Bible with you, you can turn to 2 Kings chapter 6, verse 8, but if you don't have a Bible, don't worry, just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So 2 Kings chapter 6, beginning at verse 8. Now the king of Syria was making war against Israel, and he consulted with his servants, saying, My camp will be in such and such a place. And the man of God sent to the king of Israel, saying, Beware that you do not pass this place, for the Syrians are coming down there. And then the king of Israel sent someone to the place of which the man of God had told him. Thus he warned him, and he was watchful there, not just once or twice. Therefore the heart of the king of Syria was greatly troubled by this thing. And he called his servants and said to them, Will you not show me which of us is for the king of Israel? And one of his servants said, None, my lord, O king, but Elisha the prophet who is in Israel tells the king of Israel the words that you speak in your bedroom. So he said, Go and see where he is, that I may send and get him. And it was told him, saying, Surely he is in Dothan. Therefore he sent horses and chariots and a great army there, and they came by night and surrounded the city. And when the servant of the man of God arose early and went out, there was an army surrounding the city with horses and chariots. And his servants said to him, Alas, my master, what shall we do? So he answered, Do not fear, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them. And Elisha prayed and said, Lord, I pray, open his eyes that he may see. And the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw. And behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. So when the Syrians came down to him, Elisha prayed to the Lord and said, Strike this people, I pray, with blindness. And he struck them with blindness according to the word of Elisha. Now Elisha said to them, This is not the way, nor is this the city. Follow me, and I will bring you to the man whom you seek. But he led them to Samaria. So it was, when they came to Samaria, that Elisha said, Lord, open the eyes of these men, that they may see. And the Lord opened their eyes, and they saw, and there they were inside Samaria. Now when the king of Israel saw them, he said to Elisha, My father, shall I kill them? Shall I kill them? But he answered, You shall not kill them. Would you kill those whom you have taken captive with your sword and your bow? Set food and water before them, that they may eat and drink, and go to their master. Then he prepared a great feast for them, and after they ate and drank, he sent them away, and they went to their master. So the bands of the Syrian raiders came no more into the land of Israel. It seems so strange at first glance that after the events of chapter 5 and the healing of the Syrian commander Naaman, that hostilities would resume between Syria and Israel. But let's remember, time has a way of fading our memories, and interceding events, though untold to us, have a way of changing our minds too. Simply because 2 Kings 6 verse 8 is only 7 verses removed from 2 Kings 5 doesn't mean that these events occurred the next day, the next week, or even the next month. We could have upwards of a year or two pass between chapter 5 and chapter 6, and nonetheless Israel and Syria were enemies. Ben-Hadad didn't like Jehoram. And then, of course, we must remember that Jehoram didn't heal Naaman. Elisha did. So all of these facts, when considered together, make it clear that the peace between Israel and Syria was short-lived. And so the Syrians again sent raiders into Israel to attack. But it seems wherever Ben-Hadad told them to set up camp in order to gain a strategic advantage, Jehoram knew about it and avoided the place. It became so obvious to Ben-Hadad that something was up that he suspected that there was a traitor in the Syrian camp who was feeding information back to Jehoram. One of the servants, though, told Ben-Hadad that there weren't any traitors in the camp, for it must be Elisha the prophet who is telling Jehoram these things. Now because of Naaman's healing, the Syrians knew of Elisha and his power, so it shouldn't surprise us that is who they blamed for Jehoram knowing where they were, which was in fact exactly what was going on. Ben-Hadad ordered that a search be made for Elisha, but the servant said that Elisha had to be in Dothan. How this man knew this, we're not told, but Ben-Hadad sent a large contingent of men by night to Dothan in order to capture Elisha. Dothan is about 16 kilometers or 10 miles north of Samaria and is the place where Joseph was sold into slavery by his brothers. And so it was that early in the morning that Elisha's servant saw the contingent of men and came to Elisha in fear for what could happen. Elisha wasn't afraid, though, saying that there were many more with him than were with them. Now Elisha, who knew God was on his side, saying this wasn't a problem. But for this servant, due to his weak faith in God, he wasn't so sure. So Elisha prayed that God open the eyes of his servant. And when God did so, the servant saw the mountain filled with horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. Thus Elisha's servant was getting to peer into the heavenly realm in order to know that God was with Elisha and that the Syrians would fail in capturing Elisha. When the Syrians arrived, though, Elisha then prayed to God to close their eyes so that they may not see. God did so, and the Syrian army was blinded. What came next, though, is something that we cannot justify, which is that Elisha lied to these men, for he said to them that this was not the way, nor is this the city, meaning where you'd find Elisha. Instead, they were to follow Elisha, whom they didn't know by sight, and he would lead the way. Elisha led them to Samaria, and when they arrived there, Elisha prayed that God open their eyes, and again, God did. Seeing that they were in Samaria, I'm sure that it would frighten these men, for it certainly excited Jehoram, who asked Elisha if he could kill them. Elisha denied Jehoram's request, rather telling him to set food and water before them before letting them go. Now why would Elisha tell Jehoram to do this? Because killing these men could ramp up the hostilities, but showing them mercy could lead to an end to the hostilities. And that's exactly what ended up happening. For after these men returned to Ben-Hadad, the band of Syrian raiders came no more into the land of Israel. Before closing, though, let's quickly deal with the issue of Elisha lying. We know from the New Testament that God detests lies. He never condones them, and that unforgiven lies can lead us to hell. However, God will use lies and other sins that man commits in order to accomplish his purpose. It was God's will that Elisha be saved. He didn't tell Elisha to lie, nor does the author of 2 Kings say that God approved of the lie. But Elisha lied, and God allowed the Syrians to believe the lie in order that Elisha not come under harm. Elisha could have simply walked away with the Syrian army blinded and escaped that way. He could have changed what he said in order to lead the army to Samaria without lying to them. He could have done a whole host of things, but he lied. That God helped Elisha anyway shouldn't lead us to conclude that God will approve of our lying, so long as good comes from it. If good comes, it is in spite of the lie, not because of it, and it doesn't change the fact that lying is sinful. And so in lying, Elisha would have sinned. But Elisha could be forgiven of this sin and any other he committed by doing what the law of Moses prescribed, which is offering the sin sacrifice. And that is something I am confident Elisha, as a man of faith, would have done. There's so much about Elisha that we can emulate. Let's not, though, emulate that which God calls sinful. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of 2 Kings chapter 6, verses 24 to 33, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time.
Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.